Hello and welcome to Seattle City Makers. I'm your host, John Scholes. Well, happy spring, everybody. It's great to be in the spring season in the city of Seattle. We've made it through the dark and the damp and the gloom of our winter. It's great to have baseball back in town. The psychology of our city is just so much better when our Mariners are in action and when they're winning, and it's great to have them back. It's great to have the cherry blossoms back on the trees. My allergies are back. Maybe yours are too. The cruise ships are soon to be back, and many of you are back in the office. We're seeing continued increases in our return to office numbers in downtown Seattle, and I know our small businesses, the retailers, restaurants, salons, flower shops, barbers, our arts and cultural organizations, they appreciate you being back in your office and spending money in some of their establishments. So great to have just a continued return of positive activity in our downtown. And great to have you with us today for a conversation with one of my favorite people in the city of Seattle, Mary Bacarella, the executive director of the Pike Place Market Public Development Authority. She oversees the day-to-day operations of the institution that is essentially the landlord and the holder of the real estate that is the Pike Place Market, the soul of our city, a city within a city that is home to craftspeople and retailers and restaurants and farmers and a child care center and senior housing and clinics. It's this amazing, wonderful collection of humanity and this incredible community. It is one of the oldest and longest continuously operated public markets in our country, and a treasure in our city, and a place that a lot of locals got, including myself, I would say, got reacquainted with during COVID because they were open for the most part, and it was this place you could go and be safe and connect with people in safe and healthy ways. And a lot of us got sort of reacquainted during the pandemic. So we talk with Mary about the impacts from the pandemic on the market, the current state of the market, her connection to the market, and some of her favorite spots. We get her take and opinion on what is one of the third rails in Seattle politics, whether or not we should allow cars to drive through the market. We get her opinion on that age-old debate. And of course, we get Mary's itinerary for her perfect Saturday in the city of Seattle. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Mary Bacarella, the executive director of the Pike Place Market Public Development Authority. Well, thanks for making time for this.
Well, thank you.
We're going to cover a fair amount of ground. We'll at least try to here. 5 years at the market earlier this year, right?
Going into my sixth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What drew you to the job originally?
Oh, wow. So my background is icons of Seattle.
Yeah.
Space Needle, Chihuly, Sif, and even some that you might not know about. I started at Yesco, which was sold out to Muzak, which actually the Sub Pop guys, John Poneman and Bruce Pavitt, worked at that place too when I was there. So I've had a lot of icons through no planning at all. Uh-huh. And after I was done with Sif, I did my own thing for a little bit, and I didn't know what to do. It was like, I don't want to do my own thing. I don't want to do marketing. And I got called to this job, and I thought, in this city, there's like 2 jobs that are left that I would like. This one and Visit Seattle. Mm-hmm. Those are the 2. And it came up, and I'm like, oh my God, that would be perfect. And I don't know if you know also, but I, in 1991, helped do the lease for Unexpected Productions, the Market Theater, cleaned gum off that wall
and
twice.
Worked there, right?
I didn't work there. I volunteered there because I had other jobs. I was their stage manager and then their business manager.
Were you the last person to clean the gum off the wall before they said, just, it's fine, leave it up?
I was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of them. And we didn't have hazmat suits on like they did when they did it that big time. We were like scraping it with our hands and no gloves.
Hands.
Yeah. Anyway, and so I've always loved the market. And when I came to Seattle 40 years ago this year, I can't believe that, I got off the airplane and got taken to Place
From
Pigalle.
Michigan?
From Michigan.
Yeah.
And got taken to Place Pigalle. So the market has been in my heart forever.
That was the first place you landed in Seattle?
Place Pigalle. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there something you wish you'd known when you were applying about the job that you know now? Like, is there advice you'd give to yourself 5 years ago, or the next
person
thinking about being the executive director of the Pike Place Market?
It's nothing like you ever think. It's nothing at all. It is a wonderful, amazing, complicated, complex place. And you look at it when you come in as a visitor and you go, wow, this is everything works so well.
Yeah.
And it does, but it's really complex and we all have to work at it to make it work well. We have about 220 stores with doors. Mm-hmm. We've got about 160 crafters, 85 farmers, 450 residents, 5 social services, and about a 6-block radius on one street, really. And we all have to live together on that. And it's a lot of challenges, a lot of fun, a lot of jockeying.
And some people jokingly call you the mayor of the market. I mean, do you feel like you're having to, as mayors do, balance like all of these different political interests and considerations and rules and regulations? I mean, do you feel some days like, yeah, I am the mayor of this market?
Very much so. And there's not a lot between the constituency and community and me. Mm-hmm. It's just a couple staff members between us.
Right?
Pardon me?
And they know where to find you.
They totally know where to find me, and I'm always walking around the market. So it's a little closer than I would think other governmental leaders might have. But yeah, it is, and you have to maneuver all of them. And there's this, if something happens at the north end of the market, it will affect the south end of the market. But the south end might not even know it's going on until it affects them. Mm-hmm. So you really have to look at all of that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think makes it work so well? Like, it's this defined space that is universally appreciated in the city and beyond, where you've got this incredible mix of people and activity, and it's always packed, and it was the beating heart of the downtown and the city during the pandemic. And it's sort of like what we're trying to create, across downtown. It's like, what can we take from why that place is so successful? It's welcoming, it's safe, although not without incidents that you and your team have to deal with, but it's one of the safer, more welcoming, delightful, busy areas of downtown. How do we replicate it, or is it not replicatable?
Well, it's interesting because we talk about that quite a bit at the market. Like, what would this look like in other areas of the city? Well, first and foremost, it's a community. Mm-hmm. Even though it's a public market, it is a community where we might be fighting with each other, but our one common thing is the market. I might have my opinion, you might have yours, but it's about the market. And so we take care of each other, mm-hmm. even if whether you're the PDA, the foundation, a produce stand, everybody takes care of each other. You might not get along, but you take care of each other. And what's really interesting is you look at it, we do have this little city because our residents, they're mostly low income and mm-hmm. senior, but we do have some market rate apartments. They don't literally have to go out of the market. They have a food bank. They mm-hmm. have a senior center that gives 2 free meals a day. If you want to go shopping, you can go shopping there. You know everybody there pretty much, and you're pretty much taken care of. And you have residential managers and security that other places outside the market don't. Mm-hmm. Our residents call our security 24 hours a day, and they are there. They're security, but they're also there taking care of the community, not just watching over for safety. Mm-hmm. People get locked out. I don't know, wherever you live, if anybody at 1 o'clock in the morning would come and let you in, but our security does that. So it's really a community of taking care of each other. And I look at this city and go, I wonder how you could do that. Because at the height or the depths, whatever you want to call it, of COVID, mm-hmm. the city was doing what it needed to do. And I mean the community of the city, not the city government. But the only thing that was open was the market. Mm-hmm. And people came down there. Our senior center was still open, our food bank, as many of our essential businesses could be. We had our maintenance and facility and security and everyone there. And so I was looking at this going, well, if you could do it during this time and people were coming down to the market, the libraries were closed, everything was closed where our homeless population couldn't go.
Yeah.
So they came to the market. There were no bathrooms. The only public bathrooms that were open downtown were at the market. And so I was like, well, if that can happen during this, where are there other pockets around the market, or excuse me, around the city that you could do that. So people could feel safe in these individual yet working together communities. I don't know how it would work, but it works at the market. And it's not easy. And it's worked this way for 50 years and has been around for over 120. So I don't know. I think there's something there that could, because we have everything there.
Well, in your comment that people can bicker, they can have disagreements, but there's this shared interest and value over this place and our understanding of this platform and what we have here and how we do our thing. And that's what binds people together, perhaps. And yeah, maybe people wouldn't say the same thing about, the city generally or the broader neighborhood generally as that thing we're all connected to, at least not in recent years, it doesn't seem. Certainly we pulled together during the pandemic and there was a shared human experience, but the one at the market kind of endures.
It does. And there's so many different groups that contribute to that. I'm not even talking about the tenants or the residents.
Yeah.
I mean, Constituency Foundation, we've got our Historic Commission, we got the Friends of the Market, you've got the PDA, and we all have our things that we do for the community and work with the community. And we don't all get along all the time, but we have to, because we are on the 6-block radius and we have to get along and make it work. When I was interviewing for this job, a friend of mine works in the market, and I said, now I know what it's like working at the theater and coming down and doing shopping and everything. I said, but what's it like at the market? And he goes, it's a cross between the mafia and a socialist government. And it is. And
there's a lot of Italian roots there at the market, right?
A lot of Italian roots, and I fit right in.
That's right.
I fit right in. So, yeah.
The mafia and a socialist government.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when David Brewster opened Folio up in the market, he said, you're like the first landlord that welcomed us in, but I love what he does. And I said that when he asked me to speak, and Mayor Durkin was in the audience, and I didn't know it. And she came up and she goes, yeah, I can understand what you're talking about. I had never met her before. I'm like, oh my God.
That's a good characterization. I like that. So you had to deal, and the vendors and craftspeople, all the social service organizations, the residents, with quite a lot during the pandemic. And most of us just had to worry about, like when all the capacity limitations and restrictions and public health guidelines would come down, it's like you had to worry about the one thing that you were responsible for, whether I'm running a restaurant, or it's an office building, or an office space, or a retail shop, or an event center. But you've got, childcare and restaurants and all this stuff, right? So you had to deal with a lot. The only other person I could think of that had a similarly full plate was Chuck Nelson, the CEO of the Washington Athletic Club, because he's got so much going on under that roof. But
right.
You had a lot to deal with, and there was major budget implications too from the rent and parking you weren't collecting to the degree you were projecting. What's the state of the market today as we sit here in March of 2023?
Well, it's really interesting if I can talk a little bit about COVID. I mean, we were predicting a $23 million budget that year in 2020, and I think we did $13 million.
Oof,
and
that's a haircut.
What's really odd about it was mostly residential, which is not a big portion of our budget, but they had the
that you were collecting.
But that we were collecting residential, and they had their checks coming in or whatever, and they were paying their rent. We had some really some essential businesses that actually, it was so great that the local community came down and used the market as their grocery store. They also walked through, I walk through it every day. I was there every day, and I walked through it, and other people from other neighborhoods would come down, and it was almost like you could see in their eyes, it was like, okay, this is a little bit of normal, just a little bit of normal. Everything's closed, but it's still here, and it's quiet, and people will talk to you, and it was almost like a respite from what everything was going on. And last year, as we were building through, we were this close from our 2019 budget.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we're very lucky. People love the market. We all work together to make sure it runs. And when the cruises came back, when the tourism came back, it really helps us. I mean, the locals really, really supported us during COVID. I mean, I cannot thank them enough. And they support us now, but it's kind of like, oh, the tourists are back. We want them back. We want the locals to come down again, because not only do you have the shoulder seasons, but before 11 o'clock, you can pretty much walk through the market in the summer. And after about 3, I mean, the tourists come at a certain time and then they go off. We still want you here. Don't think you can't. We're not going back to that. We still want you there. So.
And you made a big push from a marketing perspective to communicate with locals through the pandemic. And so you're saying they responded, they listened, they showed up because, there's lots of other places you couldn't go. But your sense is they've maybe gone back to their previous habits and behaviors and are leaving it to tourists a little bit more
in the summer.
Yeah.
But not in the off season. I left just now. It's a Wednesday in March, and the place is really busy.
Yeah. And the sun's out.
And the sun is out. Yeah, that makes a lot of...
Does your pedestrian traffic of locals sort of track with blue skies? I mean,
yes, very much so. Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when it's rainy and it's January, February, you could shoot a cannon down that street and not hit anybody, except maybe me and some of our tenants or something. But actually, I say that, but not this year. We had a great January. We had a great February. We base it all on our tenant sales.
Yeah. We had one of your tenants, Rachel Marshall, on the last podcast, and she validated that, what you just said. Her January numbers, she said, were phenomenal.
She's so great. She is so great. We're so glad she's there. But yeah, the January and February of this year.
What do you attribute that to? Because our hotel numbers were down 25% or so for occupancy relative to 2019. So that's got to be locals showing up again? Or?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a holdover from all of that marketing. We are here, and this is your place. This is your place during COVID. And we just kept saying that, and people just kept coming, which we love that they're coming down.
Yeah, it worked. It worked with me. James and I were talking earlier. James lives in Lower Queen Anne. James, our producer, as everybody knows.
Hello, James.
And director of PR and a lot of other things. And we've both, lived in the greater downtown for quite some time, but maybe weren't regular shoppers and kind of become that. We were talking to Rachel about that too. And it's such a great experience. It's the most efficient shopping experience that you can have.
I really appreciate that. Would you say more?
Yeah. Well, so you go to Socio's produce, right? And immediately you're greeted, hey, how you doing? And what do you need? And you just point. Where can you go and you just point, and then they put the stuff in a box, and then they ring it up, and you're ready to go. And then you can eat a great fresh tomato while you're pointing that they cut for you. I mean,
it's true.
Where do you get that service? And then you go to Don and Joe's Meats, and you're in and out as fast as you want to be, or you can linger, and then you go to De Laurentiis. I mean, it's great.
I really appreciate you saying that. I remember when I first got here, and there were different groups that asked me to speak, and somebody raised their hand after I spoke, and they said, if only everything was in one place, I'd do my shopping there. And I'm like, everything is in one place. We just don't have a roof over it. So it's true. It's very true. And it's actually efficient, and it's also very pleasant. You said, Mike talks to you, his staff talks to you at Socios. Don and Joe's, God, I love them. I mean, I love everyone. I just went to lunch at De Laurentiis. We have great restaurants. It is pretty efficient, but you can also take as much time as you want. Yeah.
And there's no self-checkout. We're not thrown to that whole thing of go figure it out yourself, right?
Okay, John, you're going to have to do a commercial for us, because these are the things we haven't thought of, and that is perfect. You get customer service there. You might get an interesting customer service sometimes with our tenants, but you get customer service there.
Yeah. No, you still are committed to having the professionals check us out, not throwing us at it. So the revenue's back to 19 or close. Yep. What about overall pedestrian volumes? Or are you back to the number of
We're pretty close to the numbers. We might be a little down, but when you're up at 13 million in 2019, being a little down is kind of like, okay. And it does get really, really busy in the summer where there's so many people, which is great, but a little bit down is okay. But we're inching back up there. We're almost there.
And you've got a lot going on around the market with the Victor Steinbrook Park being completely redone, the waterfront project, of course, and the Overlook piece. That's kind of the signature connection from
And the Pike Pine Corridor just started.
And and what, 20 plus million on Pike and Pine.
Yeah.
So are those projects having a negative impact, or are you just kind of looking beyond over the horizon to when they're all done and people sort of can walk through it and get through it and still find their way to the market?
Yeah, we've gotten to a point where we're all just working together, all the different groups, the city, the aquarium, Victor Steinbrook Park, us, the Pike Pine Corridor. We're all just kind of working together to make it work. We've gone from, we were working on it 2018, 2019, and all of you were working on it before that. That's when I got there. And then switching to COVID and everything stopped. So when we started up, it kind of started up with a bang because we all needed to get our projects going. So we're all just kind of maneuvering around each other and working with each other. It's kind of crazy, but it seems to be working. The waterfront numbers seem to be up, and their businesses seem to be doing well. The market seems to be doing well. So it seems to be working. So we're all just in constant, and I mean constant, contact with each other to make sure I'm shutting this down here. Well, I'm going to open it up here, but it's working. So it's so great that partnership. We all keep talking to each other because it's a common goal that we need to get to, and it's been pushed out. So we need to keep working on it.
And so what, we're about 2 years.
2 years.
All that'll be done, right?
Yep.
The Victor Steinbrook.
Steinbrook is going to be done, I think, this year. We're building a new elevator, replacing our elevator. Our elevator will be done in June. That'll be connect Western down to Alaskan Way. It's bigger, it's faster. And I think Overlook Walk is 25. And the aquarium is also, I believe, 25.
That's right. I always forget about the aquarium piece, but we shouldn't, because that's a huge
And then the main
portion.
corridor is going to be open or the roadway or whatever, we were calling it the main corridor, in a few months.
Right.
Yeah.
The traffic
So
will
there's a
shift
lot going on.
up the hill behind Cutter's there and behind Victor Steinbrook. Yeah, it'll all be worth it. It's going to be amazing, and the market's kind of right in the middle of it all, right?
It's very weird that you say that, because sometimes when I think of it, it's like, why am I so busy? What's going on? And it's like, oh yeah, there's all this stuff going on around you.
Right.
I remember in 2018 and 2019, everything that's left over in our budget that we haven't spent, we put in our capital reserves, or at least that's what the council has been saying, and we have said it. And it's like, well, do we need to do anything else? Should we put the money someplace else? And our council and council chair went, we have all of these big projects coming. We don't know how they're going to affect the market, so let's just put the money away in the capital reserve to see what happens. And then COVID happened. So it's a very smart thing to do.
You were prepared.
We were prepared.
Prepared as you could be.
Prepared as we could be. And then just slowly built back up, and now we're where we thought we were going to be, and that's where we thought we were going to be, and we are. So, yeah.
And you're looking to the future, as I understand it, and engage some folks in a master plan process.
Yes.
I don't know if that's what you're calling
Yes,
it, but
the
master
plan. Yeah.
What do you hope to come out of that? What are some of the big questions you're trying to answer about the future of the market?
Well, we started talking about this in 2019 as we were it might be a little late to the game, I don't know, but the changing face of retail, how people shop, how people eat, how people travel, whatever we do, how people do it is changing rapidly. And so we're like, we should do this and study it. The other thing that was happening is we have older buildings. And I don't know if you know it, I don't know if you were around this when it was happening. I was in the city, but not around it. They did the levy in 2007 for the big renovation.
Yep.
Well, at some point, we're going to have, we got a 30-year capital plan. What does that look like? And with all the new things happening with climate change, and we have old buildings, we're in a landmark, we're in a historic district. Are we going to be able to do what we do, or are we going to have to follow, which I would assume, all the changes? What is that going to look like? So to me, in our master plan, it's two things. I mean, first of all, we need to save the authenticity of the market. That's number one. We have a charter we live by. We have a community we take care of. We have to live by that. We have to keep what that brand is and what that fabric of the market is. But how do we keep that without becoming a museum? We need to thrive. We need to sustain. We need to be vital. People love that about it, but they also love that they get that feel of what it was like before. But we can't lose sight that everything is changing so fast around us.
That's a difficult balancing act, isn't it? I mean, is that the inherent tension of the place you run?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. People are like, what is going to happen with this master plan? And I'm like, I don't know.
Do you have
That's
people
why
in
we
different
hired
camps
people.
on that are, hey, we need to evolve more. We can't be static, and those that are,
Yes.
don't change a thing.
Yes. There's don't
Yeah.
change a thing, and there's we need to evolve. Now, the people that say we need to evolve, I have to give them credit that we need to evolve in the way the market needs to evolve and what that looks like. But the people that remain static, they understand it. They just don't want to change because they like what it is. And I keep saying, if I could take this and put it 20 years and we could still have the success that we're having, great. But we keep our rents down more than any other place. And we do that so we can incubate small businesses, so we can be more diverse with our small businesses. We can have immigrant businesses. So we have to do that. So where is the other funds going to come from if we can't do what everybody else does around us? We also, again, coming to the physical plant, what is that going to look like? Each of our buildings, what kind of things do we need to put in place? The whole thing with the natural gas going away.
Right.
How do we do that at the market? I don't know, but hopefully Methune, who's part of this team, will help us figure that out. I mean, there's so many things about our physical plant that we need to study to make sure we keep up with what is going on. It's all up to date. All the utilities, what are we going to do with that when we move forward? Because a lot of the things we do are as up to date as 2007. You know what I mean? I mean, we keep things up to date, but we really need to look ahead and go, what's the plan? And it's not going to happen in a minute. It's not going to happen in a year, but we need to look at that over the next 10, 20 years or so.
So you're thinking both of just the capital assets and how to maintain and preserve and evolve, but also the experience and what people are looking for to ensure you're still relevant without getting away from what makes you authentic and unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you could sort of project out, like, hey, this works for the next 20 years at 5% growth. Okay, don't mess with anything. But your concern is, well, the world and market and preferences around us are changing, and we need to understand that.
Yeah, exactly. And the city is changing.
Yeah.
The demographics are changing. Everything around us, as we just talked about, is changing. And is it competition? We're all partners, but there's more competition. There's always been competition in Seattle, which is one of the greatest things about Seattle, in whether it's food or retail, and we got to bring that back. In business, it's one of the greatest things about Seattle, but we need to be able to sustain ourselves through that. And we want to study all of that. There's no crystal ball. We all know that. You probably know that better than anyone. What's the city going to look like? But we really need to get some minds together. We're going to do a lot of stakeholder outreach. You are on that list to say, okay, what does this look like as we move forward? Because as we always say, why is everybody in our business? Literally, it's like this, and we need to save this and that. And it's not even just us, it's everybody in the city. And my director of operation goes, see that big sign at the entrance of the market? It says public market. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It says public market.
Speaking of that, the age-old conversation, the third rail of Seattle politics, whether there should be cars through the market or not. What don't people appreciate about that question and that debate?
What people don't appreciate about it, and we talk about this all the time, how do we make people understand? The Pike Place Market isn't a park. It will never be a park. I think that's what people see, and I can see why they want it. Cobblestone streets, there's people, I can see all of that. The Pike Place Market is a working market. We have deliveries come and go all times of the day or night. People go, we'll just have it from 6 to 10. So the farmer that comes through in his truck because he ran out of flowers, what is he supposed to do in the middle of the day? The crafters who come in with their car and unload everything. The fish guys that have a number of times during the day where they send fish out. And these are over 200 small businesses that use that street every day. We have no loading dock. If you're on Western, we have coolers down on Western because we're 3 level. Most of our buildings are 3 levels.
You don't have traditional alleys either.
We don't have alleys.
You got post alley, but that's not for vehicles.
It's not for vehicles. Yeah. We have coolers down on Western. If you have fish or meat or whatever and you don't have a cooler up, you have to take an elevator up. Everybody's going up and down all the time. Pike is the only really flat street. When you get down to Pine and Stewart and all of them, if you're doing anything, you're on a hill. We don't have the traditional ways regular streets run or business streets run. Like I said, we are a 6 square block of over 450 residents, and for lack of a better, not dividing them up, 500 small businesses. And they're up on 3 levels. I remember when everybody was doing the during COVID setting up on the street. We don't really have restaurants that are on the street. We have some takeaway food and that sort of thing. We had mats in the market going up and down streets to picnic tables that were out there. Yeah. We had Maximilian's coming out from the back and running out and serving. We had Il Bistro coming up the stairs. I mean, we don't have the traditional, I'm going to walk out and put it in front of you and walk back in the door.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand about the market. It is not a traditional, I don't even know if that's the word they use, street. We don't have loading docks. We have one street. Otherwise, you're coming up from elevators somewhere.
Well, and we like that aspect of it too, right?
Exactly.
It makes it kind of work, is everything's sort of crammed and tucked together, and it's not a traditional city block with an alley down the middle.
Exactly.
And big loading zones and all of that.
And it's fascinating to watch when we were like up in the Goodwin Library. Everybody maneuvers. Here comes a car. People love walking in front of cars. I have to tell you, people say they don't want to.
Well, it's the only place in the city where you as a pedestrian, have some power over a 3,000-pound piece of steel. It's kind of fun just to, I'm going to take my time here.
I'm going to walk in front of this car. Yeah. How you doing?
How's it going? I'm sorry you took a right here. That wasn't smart, was it? In August on a Saturday. Okay.
There's one thing we do need to fix.
Yeah, that parking space is maybe going to be available, probably not.
I can get in that parking space.
Yeah.
The one thing we do have to fix on that is...
We've all done it though, right? I mean...
Oh, the parking place?
No, I mean, you drive through there at some point in your life, a Seattleite. You drive in there like, I'm going to strike gold and find a spot right there.
Before I worked there, that's all I ever did. Yeah. I know I can find a parking space there. Somebody's going to leave.
Yeah. I'm going to time it just beautifully.
Yes.
You operate a pretty sizable, unarmed security force. You mentioned them earlier in responding to people locking themselves out, and they do a lot more than that.
A lot more than that.
And we've had this big question in this city and other cities about what's an alternative to, or an addition to, armed commissioned law enforcement to deal with public safety issues that may not require an armed commissioned law enforcement officer. And it strikes me that you've been kind of doing this and running this in the market for quite some time, and they're not armed, and they provide all kinds of aid and response. Has anybody come and asked you, anybody from this city or others, about this as we're having this conversation in Seattle about how to stand up an alternative or separate force? It seems like you might have in your security team and operations lead something to offer here.
Well, so yes, I can't speak. Our security staff is unbelievable. The things that they have to put up with every day that people don't know, and they go, "Oh, the market's the safest place in Seattle," and you're like, "Yeah, it is."
With a lot of work.
We also deal with a lot of things, just like everybody else does.
Yeah.
So when the waterfront was starting to plan for what they were doing, not under Joy, but under Thatcher and Heidi, they came to us and said, "What do you do?" And so our security manager went and helped them try and build that with them. We do a lot of training, de-escalation training. They've been doing it for so long. We've hired more staff. One thing is we're a little, I don't know how to say this, but people have this thing about the market. It's like, don't go in the market. They do go in the market, but it's like.
People that maybe are causing trouble. Or
we have the ones that do come in, but we don't have tents. We don't have what do you call them, the RVs, that part. People just don't do that in the market because it's this special place. And I'm not saying it's so special nobody's doing it, we don't have to deal with it.
We have a level of density and activity.
The level of density and activity. Yeah. And so the security is this level that kind of protects everyone and knows what everything's going on. But you cannot deny also the density aspect of it. Mm-hmm. We will have our tenants and our business owners run after people. Now, we tell them not to, but they're very particular. Remember during after 9/11, see something, say something. We have a lot of that at the market. And they tend to actually call security, and we're like, on some of these things you need to call SPD, but our security reacts so much. But they are not armed, and sometimes that can get a little dicey.
Are they showing up to the right thing, or is it more appropriate for SPD to be there?
Exactly, or everybody together.
Yeah.
You have a security force for downtown. How does that work for you?
Yeah, we're a little more junior into that line of work than you, but yeah, there's certainly a role for those folks to be playing that's cheaper and right now easier to hire for than police. And there's, I think, an appropriate set of things for folks like that with that kind of training that aren't armed but can intervene in other ways, appropriate for them to respond to those things. But clearly we need more police out there too.
Clearly need more police out there.
But it seems like we should be learning as a city from entities like the market who've run unarmed security for quite some time as we consider how to stand up a city sanctioned and funded unarmed alternative response.
Yeah.
So, well, hopefully they come calling and asking you and maybe us too of what we're learning.
Our security staff has a great rapport with SPD, and we have a lot of meetings with them and supportive of each other as much as they can be when they are called. They are stretched very thin. We have great security, and they really take it very personally to protect the market.
Yeah. Do you have some favorite spots or experiences in the market?
Oh, I have a lot.
Can you pick favorites?
I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Pink Door.
Yeah.
I go to Maximilian's. I love De Laurentiis. I love going in the Down Under and just going into the little stores and seeing all the different quirky, interesting, fun little things. I do most of my Christmas shopping at the craft tables or in the Down Under because it's so fun. There's so many places, and we have some great. We have some great new tenants. We have a shoemaker on Western, Leolo. We have a hat maker. We have a new plant store. We have a popcorn store, Cobb's. Western is turning into this little boutique-y place that's so fun and mostly women-owned, which is really great.
Right on.
We've gotten way more different diverse businesses that are coming in. We took the old newsstand and we call it our guest vendor. And you can be there for 2 to 4 weeks, I believe, and see.
Little pop-up.
Little pop-up.
Cool.
We have 3 of them there. And they can either see, they might move into the craft if that's what they're looking for, or not do anything. We've had 2 that have actually moved into spaces in the market.
Wow.
So it's a real great small business incubation, and it's been incredibly diverse, BIPOC, and women mostly.
So this seems like another area where we could learn from the market and what you are doing as we think about all this ground floor vacant retail that we're trying to fill, right?
Oh, it's great. And all these little businesses are coming, and it's
we have like a university on all these post-pandemic urban issues in the middle of our city that we are not tapping.
We could do that. We'd be happy to help.
Yeah, you are now the professor of the market in addition to the mayor. Has your leadership had to evolve, flex, adjust in dramatic ways through the pandemic? Have you leaned on new qualities or traits, or did you sort of come through with the qualities and traits you built in all the other significant roles you've held in this city?
I mean, I came into the job with whatever. I came into the job with the skills, but I mean, my background's marketing. It's like what I do now is so far from marketing, but I guess it's not, because I'm marketing the PDA to our community going, no, come on, buy into these ideas. We're really doing this.
We're all marketers.
We're all in it together. Right? Exactly. What I really learned during the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, and I learned this from my mother, but this was the skill that it was like, oh, I got to tap into this, was more compassion. Because we were all freaking out personally for COVID, just people, but we were having our business owners, like they were thinking their whole businesses were just going to disappear in a minute. And you were listening to these stories over and over and over again. And hearing the fear, and they needed to take care of their family, the fear in their voice, what's going to happen to my business? And at one point, we literally had no idea what was going on. And we just said to them, don't pay your rent. We don't know what's going on. We don't care. Don't pay your rent. We don't know what's going on. We'd tell them on the phone, it's like, get it, really get it. Forget about us. Take care of your family, whatever you need to do to your business to do whatever it is. Don't pay your rent. And that went on for a number of months. And then we started coming out of it a little bit. I don't know if you know, but we got no PPP as the PDA.
Is that because of your tax designation? Yeah.
No PPP.
Yep.
So we cut hours, we cut positions, we cut salaries. We gave $3.85 million in rent credits to our tenants. We turned everything inside out. We have these attendance issues that you have with the craft, that you have to do attendance certain amount to get certain tables. It's a long process. But we just threw everything out the window and said, come if you can. If you can, it's okay. We just threw everything out the window. Now we're trying to get that back in, and people are like, well, I'm kind of liking this. It's like, no, we're going back to normal. But the skill, the very first one, and I had it, but it was really like, just listen to people, because they just need to talk to somebody. They just need to talk to somebody. And coming out of it, it's the same thing, but between what happened in COVID and then inflation and labor shortages and the demonstrations in the street and our political climate in the country, now it's just listen to them, but there's a lot of fear and anger. And you just got to kind of manage that, because it's like, it's not you, it's everything else that's coming in. I mean, even really successful ones are still afraid, and you're like, look how you're doing, and they're still afraid, and you just have to manage that. And you just listen to them and you try and help them. But it's all about listening and trying to be compassionate, but at the same time, trying to really give them ideas, or just give it some time or whatever. It worked out with COVID. It'll keep working out. We just need to work at it.
A mayor, a professor, a therapist. We wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
It might be easier just to be the mayor of Seattle than what you're doing, I think.
No, thank you.
So, Mary, we conclude our podcast with our guests with the question of, what is your perfect Saturday in Seattle, an itinerary morning to evening, if you could design it, whatever season?
Oh, mine aren't that interesting. I get up and I have a great cup of Seattle coffee, because I know a lot of them. I have a lot of them, and it's a Seattle coffee, and I read for a couple of hours and listen to music, and then I go to my favorite breakfast place or brunch place, whatever time it may be. I take a walk. I hang out with friends. I love walking through the market on a Saturday, because it's kind of like I don't have any meetings.
Say you weren't at the market.
Well,
because usually the market's on everybody else's itinerary that we asked this question to. So I was waiting for where it showed up on yours.
It's because I'm not having any meetings, and yes, I'm working and I'm talking to people, but
do you go in disguise?
No, not at all. You can't. Oh, by the way, I'm changing. I'll end this. Anyway, it's just hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
I don't have any big. I used to, and I need to come. I used to come downtown every Saturday. Nordstrom, loved my credit card that I had with them, but because I work downtown now, it's like I don't always walk around. I used to come down every Saturday to downtown Seattle. I did, because I live on Capitol Hill, and I'd walk down. It's not big. I don't do a lot. I don't ski or kayak or anything. I just walk. I hang out with friends. I eat good food. That's kind of what I do. And I go out to dinner at night, maybe go to a movie, maybe go to a show. It's kind of simple, but really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good Seattle activities.
And just so you know, Bruce Springsteen, when he was here, walked through the market.
Did he really?
Yes, he did. And it was so funny.
Were you there?
No.
Oh.
I'm thinking to myself, because I went to the concert, I'm thinking to myself, he's going to stay at the Four Seasons, and he's going to walk through the market. Where else would Bruce Springsteen walk, right? So the fish guys on Monday, the Pike Place fish guys, have this picture of him throwing a fish. And I go up to Jason, and I just give him this nasty look. He goes, what's going on? And I just kept looking at him. He goes, Bruce Springsteen. I said, why didn't you call me?
Oh, that's a good story.
But that's exactly what he did. He stayed at the Four Seasons, and he walked through the market.
I missed him when he was here at Climate Pledge. I don't know.
It was
Did you see
so
that?
good.
You were there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're a music fan, aren't you?
I'm
You
a huge music fan.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. And
You and I got John Prine.
yes.
Yes.
Rest in peace. May he.
May he rest in peace.
Well, thank you, Mary, for making time for this. I know your days and weeks are always busy, and we appreciate you squeezing us in. And thank you for your incredible leadership over these last 5 years, but the last 3 really, really, really tough ones in particular. Our city owes you a debt of gratitude for keeping that incredible asset and jewel thriving. And so thank you.
Well, thank you. And back at you. You've got a big job here. And thanks for keeping it going.
You bet. Well, hope you enjoyed my conversation with Mary Bacarella. Just a tremendous leader in our city, a true city maker, and someone who holds an important role in stewarding and overseeing this incredible treasure of the Pike Place Market. So appreciate all she does and appreciate her making time to join us on Seattle City Makers. I want to close out, as I do each and every episode, with a recommendation of what you just can't miss and must check out in downtown Seattle. Sometimes this is something that's brand new, something that maybe has reopened as we've emerged from the pandemic, or something that is coming that you got to keep your eyes on and make plans to go check out. In this case, it's something that's coming, and you're going to want to know about it if you love wings and cocktails and the such. Vindictive Bar and Wings is opening a permanent location in Belltown in May in the Austin Bell building. They've had a residency, a temporary spot, as Eater Seattle describes it. I love how they use residency. It's not a pop-up. It's a residency at Rose Temple up on Capitol Hill, but they are going to have their own home down in Belltown in the beautiful historic Austin Bell building, opening sometime in May, and they're going to bring wings and great cocktails and I think a late night scene to the neighborhood. And these guys are legit. 2 brothers with roots in Western New York, where I also have roots, and can tell you the wings are pretty dang good there. And they're trying to up our wing game here in Seattle. So I'm looking forward to this as a connoisseur of wings. And I think if you ask for a side of ranch with your wings in their wing joint, they will ask you to leave. Maybe not. Maybe they won't be that harsh, but they are blue cheese guys and are upfront about their desires to make sure that we're doing wings right in the city of Seattle. So keep your eyes out for Vindictive Bar and Wings, set to open later this spring in downtown Seattle. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this episode of Seattle City Makers, presented by the Downtown Seattle Association, with support from James Cito and production by Spark Creative.